It's the 14th of October 2020, and I thought that it's advisable to say a few words in the context of the latest developments of the situation. Um, 13 past 5 p.m. in Krakow, in Poland. Um, so I have made the list of the enemies, the people who have participated, the groups that have participated in the crime against me and my mother, possibly also against my son, but that's not certain. There are some signals that I do have a son, so one of the three, or perhaps there were more, has been born and grown up. I don't know if it's true or not, but perhaps it is. Um, Generally, the part of family loyal to me might be in danger. However, it obviously results from the from the fact that part of the family have been disloyal, and generally this is the situation of major treason, um, huge treason on the part of former allies, on the part of friends, on the part of the family, on the part of the homeland or motherland, fatherland, Poland, on the part of the two churches that I have been a member of, that is the Roman Catholic Church and the Church of Scientology, and also on the part of humankind, because those masses of people, or not masses, but those human beings, the individuals all around the world, have given their consent to this atrocious crime. If someone thought that such atrocities committed against my mom or me could be forgiven and forgotten, or not forgotten but forgiven at least, they were incorrect. There's no chance of coming back to life and continuing it normally. And it's not only due to the damage, to the physical damage done, but also due to the spiritual damage done. The people responsible for such atrocities must face the responsibility. So we have reached the point where all seems to be gone. um, but I am still alive and I shall continue my life. Um, I have presented the schedule, the curriculum and schedule for the University of Onestia, the Royal University of Onestia, which is the newest development in the noble Kingdom of Onestia, my kingdom. And I have not started it due to the physical condition. So I'm not following the schedule, but the schedule is for 3 weeks. So once the 3 weeks pass and I find myself in the condition to be able to do the schedule, I may start after the 3 weeks and then it starts again. There are two versions. One version includes Poland and one version excludes it. Though obviously, as long, I mean, there is still Poland. I believe it will end, but for now there is still Poland. So the history of the world, for instance, or the history of Europe includes Poland. Right now I will focus on reading the books. I have invested a lot of money in my library, so the books should be enough for a few years. I have started reading. Finally I could focus on that and it goes well. I cannot read too much due to the physical condition and due to the continuing torture. The conditions in which I am living are totally atrocious. They are not for study the development, the intellectual development. However, I had done my part as a student, so I'm used to studying and reading, which makes it easier than it might be for someone who had never done their job. So this is what I'm focusing on now. I can also listen to languages, foreign languages, to get used to them, to get familiar with the sound, with the presence. Perhaps I could put it this way. Part of the atrocities, of course, the presence of the people I would never accept in my life, the prostitutes from Poland, the prostitutes doing their job for the authorities. And so these are double prostitutes, so to say. They are not only prostitutes due to the fall into the degenerate state of life in sexual terms, but also due to the moral and spiritual fall, which has to do with the authorities using them for destroying a noble, innocent person. And they are of murderous minds, they are criminal minds, and such people should never be a part of my life, obviously. I'm still alive. Oh, there's another important thing. This happened yesterday. When we reached some point in the crime, I decided that it was high time for me and John Paul II to part, because he's the Pope. He was the head of this church, and I believe that his teachings might have resulted in the actions of the priests who would sacrifice people or make people sacrifice themselves. I believe this doctrine is false, and there is the doctrine of the infallibility of the Pope, but I believe it is incorrect. So I believe that this part of John Paul II's teaching, the one having to do with sacrifice and suffering, is not godly, really. So of course it's admirable how he continued his service to God, regardless of the devastation. And I believe it was important because, well, if he suffered the devastation, obviously they wanted to remove him. But he did not let himself be removed, at least to the degree that made it possible for him to pass on the thoughts. However, apart from other teachings, there was the teaching about the suffering, which I believe is incorrect. And I believe this is not the word of God, this is not what Jesus was teaching us. I always say we are not God. So it cannot be demanded from us, especially by fallen people, to take this kind of suffering on us. And I also believe it's very important to differentiate between what comes from God and what comes from Satan. So the Roman Catholic Church tends to superimpose the interpretation that has to do with the God's will. And I believe it has nothing to do with the God's will. This is our failure to conquer the works of Satan, the works of the evil. So I have taken a totally different attitude, and I'll be creating my own church. Well, it means the noble Queendom of Honestia needs to change the patronage, so perhaps I will make it simple and straight and just put it under God. Agnieszka Justitia I of Honestia, the noble Queendom.